Loneliness is something I am deeply passionate about because I don't think we approach it as honestly as we should. And that's why it will always be one of the reasons people keep abandoning themselves. I go deeper into my approach in this video here, but the heart of it is this: we need to dethrone loneliness. Okay? It's akin to the way we treat anger, as if it's some tragic, shameful thing that should never happen. As if it's unnatural, but it's not. And when we see it that way, we stop ourselves from learning how to live with it. We don't observe it. We don't get curious about it. We don't build healthy ways to cope with it. Instead, we focus all our energy on getting rid of it, even if it means running into people and places that slowly chip away at our humanity. The first way to begin changing your relationship with loneliness is to reframe your way of seeing it. It's a natural human experience, inevitable at times, and in many cases, it doesn't mean anything insidious about you. Now, of course, there are people who are lonely because they've isolated themselves for a plethora of reasons and have found it difficult to return to the world, and for many people, it started as survival. Trauma can teach your body that solitude is safer than company. If that's your story, my heart genuinely goes out to you. Be gentle with yourself. You don't have to leap. You can inch. If it's available to you, start with therapy. Then slowly re-enter the world in ways that feel manageable. One of the things I did for myself when I was coming out of self-isolation was this. Instead of always sitting alone, because I do like to be alone, instead of always sitting alone, I would find a group of people and sit right in the middle or right beside them. And if I didn't know them, I would just be like, can I join you? Yeah. And then I'll just sit there and listen or do my own thing or eat quietly. It was my way of teaching my body to feel safe around others again. And by the way, I still do it till this day. Yes. And no, I don't care what people think. Instead of telling myself the story that I'll never relate to other people and what they are saying, I just sit there and do my own thing. I put my headphones in. I smile if someone smiles at me. I don't say much, but I remind myself that I belong with my fellow human beings, even if we don't always share the same wavelength. There are also people who have found themselves lonely because they've refused to take responsibility for how they show up in the world. I'm talking about those people who coast through their relationships. You know yourself, offering little and taking much. Maybe people have come into your life, they've tried, they've poured into you, but they had to leave because you were unsafe, inconsiderate, abusive, manipulative, or maybe you're someone who benefits from systems that harm other people and you've chosen silence and comfort over action. And now you're looking around and there's no one there for you. Your loneliness is a consequence, not a curse. But that doesn't mean it's permanent, okay? There is a way out, remember. I'm starting with the man in the mirror. Oh yeah, I'm asking him to change his ways. Oh yeah, no message could have been any clearer. Hey, if you wanna make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and then make a change. Yes, my love. It starts with you. Take a look, a really long look at the mirror and recognize who you've been. Self-awareness is uncomfortable, but it's also transformational. Take honest inventory. Make amends where needed. Commit to showing up differently. The world responds to changed behavior. If you do the work, connection will follow. My focus today, though, is on people who are dealing with loneliness for complex and sometimes overlooked reasons. Let's start with the basics. Why are you lonely? Yes, a lot of us live with a deep ache. Yes, we know we are lonely, but we haven't really sat down to reflect and dissect the exact why. What do you actually mean when you say you are lonely? And if someone had the perfect solution to your problem, what would you want it to be? Okay? Are you lonely because you feel like you've never been loved or truly known? If your answer is yes, then pause. Are you saying that in your entire life, no parent, no friend, no teacher, no community member has ever loved or known you? And if your answer is still yes, then I want to gently, kindly challenge that. Is it truly that no one has ever cared, or is it that you weren't aware of it or able to receive it? There's something quietly destructive about blanket beliefs, especially the limiting ones. Are you familiar with the Bader-Meinhof phenomenon, also known as the frequency illusion? It's a cognitive bias where once you become aware of something, you start noticing it everywhere. The same thing happens with your beliefs. If you live with the story, no one truly knows me, nobody cares about me, nobody loves me, you will find confirmation for that story everywhere. You will move through the world in ways that reinforce it. You will overlook people who see you. You will block people who want to love you. But if you begin just a little to shift that narrative to something like, maybe someone out there does see me or would like to, or for me, I kept telling myself, if I exist, people like me exist. You start opening up possibility. Yes, your chances widen and so do your choices, because the lens you wear decides what you notice and what you let in. So now the real question becomes, are you willing to change the story you tell yourself even just a little? Are you willing to become more aware of the love or the possibility of love and community that surrounds you? It's true. What you believe shows up in how you carry yourself. People can feel it. It's written in your posture, your tone, your expectations. When someone walks through the world convinced that everybody hates them, it shows. It repels healthy connection because what you're unconsciously telling people and communicating is that you don't believe that you are someone worth knowing either. And the most beautiful thing about our brains is that it can't tell the difference. It doesn't know the difference between what's true and what's repeated. In neuroscience, it's called neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself based on repeated thought, repeated language and behavior. Every time you repeat a belief, whether it's I am unlovable or I am worthy of love, you are strengthening a neural pathway. Pay attention. And the more it's repeated, the more automatic and true it feels. Your brain isn't assessing for accuracy. It responds to emotion, repetition, and consistency. So when you begin expecting to be loved, respected, and supported, even if it feels fake at first, yes, you are conditioning your brain to believe it. And over time, your actions start aligning. You become more open, more grounded, more receptive, and people respond to that. So yes, try walking into the world with the reframe. I love myself and others love me, even if you don't believe it. You'll be shocked at how different everything feels, not because the world changed, but because you did. Okay? And if after hearing all of this, you're still thinking, well, it's not that I've never been loved, it's just that I've never had that one person I can call mine, then we're talking about a different type of loneliness now, okay? One that stems less from lack and more from desire. Sometimes even from the fantasy and stories we've been fed about what love is supposed to look like. And that kind of ache is valid, by the way. It's valid. It can be just as sharp and just as consuming as the ones that come from actual lack. But it's important to call it what it is. Romantic relationships are not guarantees. They are not owed. They are not fundamental human rights. So their absence in your life is not a failure. It's not proof that something is wrong with you. Yes, desires are human, but they don't define your worth, and they certainly don't have to dictate the quality of your life. Okay? My video, The Search for the One, might be very beneficial to you. Maybe your loneliness comes from the absence of family. Maybe you feel the gap during hard times, when other people call their moms or rely on their dads and you have no one you trust enough to call. Or maybe your parents or your loved ones have passed on and you're carrying the weight of that loss in silence or alone. Or maybe you're one of the many humans with divergent minds trying to survive in a world built on neuroconformity. In that case, your loneliness isn't imagined, it's systemic. You may be surrounded by people who love you, people who show up for you, and still feel like there's a pane of glass between you and the rest of the world. Like you're close but never quite reached, seen but never quite understood. And that kind of loneliness, it's not about being alone. It's not about, it's not about proximity. It's about being misread, mistuned, and emotionally mistranslated again and again in ways so normalized, so deeply embedded in our culture, in the fabric of our cultures, our institutions, into everyday expectations that most people don't even notice that is happening. This can also apply to people who are culturally or racially distinct in the spaces they occupy. Telling you to get a new hobby isn't the answer, certainly. So maybe your relief can come from actively seeking spaces made out for minds like yours, sensory safe environments, or even communities where people speak your rhythm or share your culture. The reason I'm asking you to identify the exact causes of your loneliness is so that you can deal with it in a targeted and mindful way. Because if what you're craving is emotional connection, then physical closeness that lacks that emotional depth won't help. It will keep you visibly not alone, but internally empty. That's like trying to treat cancer with painkillers. It might numb the ache, but it won't kill those cells. This is why so many of us are waist deep in painful relationships, unhealthy attachments, and shallow connections. Because we aren't willing to sit with our ache long enough to learn what it might mean. And what will it mean? What does it mean? It means accepting that some kinds of loneliness might never fully go away, especially the systemic kind, or that healing them might take time or truth, or a whole lot of discomfort. And again, before you despair, hear this. Being human means experiencing the full spectrum of emotion, joy, grief, anger, loneliness, love. None of it is good or bad. It just is. Just like some people turn to cheap dopamine to escape sadness or boredom, we run from loneliness because we've never learned to live with it, to get curious about it, to befriend it. So ask yourself, when do you feel most alone? Is it at night? In the mornings, on Father's Day or Mother's Day, or when you see couples, or maybe you see someone being held in a way you long for? Are there any other triggers? What unhealthy patterns do you usually engage in when it happens? What does that pattern reveal to you? Because once you have a name for it, you can then create a ritual to meet it. Say it's 6 p.m. on a Wednesday and you're aching for someone to hold you. You don't have that person, so what now? How do you create a healthy ritual for coping? How can you hold yourself until the wave passes? Rituals are powerful because they are personal. Maybe you get yourself a giant teddy bear, or a weighted blanket. Maybe you create a playlist that feels like a hug, one you can cry to, dance to, chant through, or breathe through. The purpose of this is not to get rid of your loneliness, but to help you cope with the wave. Maybe you light a candle and send a voice note to someone simply saying, "Hey, I'm feeling a little lonely today." And just to be clear, because I know someone is going to argue about it, you don't reach out to people solely so that they can help you. No, you reach out to help yourself, first and foremost. Sometimes connection isn't about someone swooping in and saving the day. It's about the principle of treating yourself like someone worth hearing out. Maybe they won't respond. Maybe they won't do anything at all. But now, your loneliness doesn't just live inside your chest. It exists out there in the world too. It's been spoken, witnessed, shared. Yeah, and you'd be surprised what can happen when you stop bottling everything up. Yes, the world can be cold and cruel, but it's also warm. It's both. And you have to believe in that warmth enough to keep reaching out for it, okay? And if the people in your life truly don't care about you, then ditch them, dump them like a hot potato, okay? And go find people who do. You are not helpless. Help yourself first and watch help start coming into your life. A lot of us walk through the world armored up. We tell ourselves stories about how cold or closed off others are, but we don't realize we are the ones not giving people a chance. Try saying what you need out loud. Try letting yourself be seen. Try talking to strangers. Yes, literally. Even as an experiment, just try it for a week. Ask someone for help. Give a compliment. Say good morning. These little moments remind us that connection is always available, even in the smallest doses. It can be a simple moment, like me 2 days ago in the park. The other day, I saw a guy climbing the stairs to a place I wanted to be. I was curious about the space and I said, hiya, excuse me. Could you please go up there and check how busy it is there and let me know so I don't have to walk all the way there? Please, thank you. And he said, oh, sure. He went there, found out, came back and told me. That was it. I didn't ask him expecting him to say yes. I just asked him because, if he ignored me, fine. I wouldn't have assumed anything about him. I won't think he's a terrible person. I would have just done it myself or asked someone else. And I won't also think I'm terrible either. I don't talk to strangers to prove that people are good or bad. I talk to strangers because humans are supposed to talk to each other. Simple. If what you're lacking is parental connection, that gap might never fully close. You will have to parent yourself. But if you want to take it even a step further, if you think parenting yourself is just too much for you, you can find a healthy alternative by choosing an elder to be the more adult in your life. Y'all realize we have free will, right? The number of older people who will willingly, gladly, openly accept a random younger person will shock you. The world is growing increasingly fragmented. The elders are experiencing a lot of loss and separation too, okay? So if you really want an older mother, father, mentor, grandparent figure, get off your bum and go outside. Volunteer in care homes. Talk to the grandpa sitting on the bench on your way home. He might be a scary person or he might be your future chosen family member. And with older people, you don't have to pretend. Just build a steady connection and ask them if they're okay being someone you call for life-related events. Also, there are some people who may not have done right by their own children, so they're so happy to use you as a chance to try again with someone. This won't replace the ache you hold about your biological family, but it will be a healthy coping mechanism, okay? I can only imagine how many people are in terrible marriages or terrible relationships right now because what they actually needed was a hug or a talk with an elder or a mentor. You know what's better than finding misery? Absolute misery in the arms of someone who doesn't care about you. Finding solace in the arms or words of someone you chose to love you on purpose. Okay? A stranger turned friend. A soul connection made through presence and willingness. That's why you must be aware of your specific type of loneliness and its causes so that you stop entering gunfights with swords. What's the point of hanging out with people I don't feel safe with just so that I'm not alone? That doesn't make any sense to me. That's harmful to me because in addition to the loneliness, now I feel overstimulated, I'm overwhelmed, and I feel empty. No way. Being alone and being lonely aren't synonyms. There are so many surrounded lonely people, and there are so many alone people who live full, expressive, vibrant lives. They are not lonely at all. If what you want is a loving physical connection, ask your friends. Be vulnerable, please. Ask for hugs. Ask for cuddles. Ask for closeness. And if that grosses you out, maybe your problem is not loneliness. It might be your mindset. You've been conditioned to believe that physical intimacy must always be sexual. But that's not biology, that's programming. No matter your gender or sexuality, platonic touch is beautiful and necessary if you value it. If you feel ashamed for needing it or if it feels wrong to ask, then your assignment is to unlearn that, okay? And if your current friends aren't touchy, then guess what? You have a new mission. Find a touchy friend. Use your free will. There are people out there who value affectionate, platonic contact. Go and find them. There's people even giving free hugs on the streets these days. Excuse me, please, go out there. And of course, let's not ignore the ache that's physical. Not just for cuddles or company, but for someone who wants you, really wants you. Desire isn't dirty, okay? Craving to be felt and touched, that's human too. But don't let that hunger drag you into places where your soul starves, where your heart starves while your body is fed. Ask yourself plainly, do you want a body, the feeling, or both? Be honest, be radically honest about what you are seeking and what you are willing to do, change, open, or risk to receive it. Because here's the truth. There are people in 10-year relationships today with someone they should have walked away from after the first meeting. Why? Because for the first 3 months, the body felt better than the ache. And now they're still lonely. They've never stopped being lonely. 10 years in. Lonely. because they weren't honest with themselves about what they truly needed. There are people who want more, deep love, emotional safety, true reciprocity, but they keep letting themselves be used as a body, as a placeholder, as an emotional pit stop for people who have no intention of ever loving them. Because they've convinced themselves that they can't get more. They tell themselves that almost is better than nothing. But the saddest part is this: almost is still nothing. What you choose to do with your life, with your body, with your love is up to you. No judgment here. The earth will have to freeze over ×5 for me to judge you. But know this: you will suffer endlessly if you keep refusing to tell yourself the truth. It is far more healing to sit with the ache, the honest ache of loneliness, than to keep jumping from fire to fire. And finally, use your creative energy. There's something sacred about being obsessed with life. Yeah. With making something, building something, expressing something, putting something out in the world that wouldn't have existed without you. And I'm not talking about babies. When you are creating, there's barely space for ruminating. Sometimes loneliness feels so big because we're not truly living. So live fully. Find something creative to obsess over. This is one part of life where obsession is encouraged. Obsess over creativity. Yeah, that energy can create worlds and new dimensions. Listen, here's the gist. You can't avoid loneliness, my darling. You have to learn to live with it gently, healthily. You have to learn how to honor its ebb and flow. Stop treating it like a flaw, like a moral failure. We are all having a central human experience, and I know it's hard to hear, but you're not alone in this. People all over the world have lonely days, lonely nights, lonely seasons. You are just one of them. It doesn't mean anything about you. It doesn't mean you failed. No. And for those of you who feel eternally misunderstood, let me offer you this. No one can ever fully understand another human being. We're all alone in a way. Every joy, every ache, every memory you carry will only ever be felt by you in the exact way you feel it. Anything you share with another person will always be a translation, a story about the thing, not the thing itself. And that, my love, is the most universal experience of all. So knock loneliness off its pedestal. Don't make it your enemy. Go live, try things, start hobbies, create rituals. Let loneliness come, let it go, let it return, let it pass, let it come, let it go. Just like every other human emotion. Okay? As always, it's been an absolute pleasure. My name is Pearl, and I'll see you in the next video. My window is open because it's hot. I'm sorry if there's sounds, but I'll see you in the next video.